Encoding by Gina Venuto, Gabriella, and Aoife White.
You will be shown a series of letters on the next slide. You will be given 10 seconds to figure out what the letters spell out. This activity will demonstrate a method the brain uses to process information called chunking, which we will mention later. The answer is memory processing.
What is encoding? Encoding, the processing of information into the memory system. It is the first of 3 steps in memory information processing. Encoding is the basis of every level of memory within the memory system. A sensory memory is encoded into a short-term memory, which can be further encoded into a long-term memory.
Encoding continued. Encoding is what changes a perceived item into a concept that can be further stored into the brain in long or short-term memory. If someone's attention and senses, run by the frontal lobe and thalamus, trigger neurons to fire, an experience is more likely to be encoded. Emotions tend to increase sensations toward an experience, run by the amygdala, and further increase the experience's ability to be encoded. These sensations are then encoded by different parts of the sensory cortex and brought together in the brain's hippocampus to form one memory.
Association. The human brain has a tendency to be associative, which means it will try and link new memories and new experiences to ones that have already been stored into the brain. The more emotional and personal a memory is, the more effectively it's encoded into the brain. Information a person finds difficult to understand will be even more difficult to encode into memory because the brain will have difficulty associating it with something else. If a sensory cue is attached to an experience, the more times it's used, the easier it is for the brain to associate the memory with that information. Examples: mnemonic devices.
Imagery and mnemonic devices. Imagery. Mental pictures, a powerful aid to effortful processing, especially when combined with semantic encoding. Mnemonics. Memory aids, especially those techniques that use vivid imagery and organizational devices.
Types of processing. Parallel processing. The processing of many aspects of a problem simultaneously. The brain's natural mode of info processing for many functions. Example: multitasking, being able to listen to the radio while focusing on driving. Automatic processing, unconscious encoding of incidental info such as space, time, frequency, and of well-known learned info such as word meanings. Example: knowing the meanings of words like anxious without having to look it up. Effortful processing, encoding that requires attention and conscious effort. Example: trying to speak in complete sentences in French or Spanish in a language class without saying any words in English.
Types of encoding. Visual encoding, the encoding of picture images. Example: looking at the covers of an album. Semantic encoding, the encoding of meaning, including the meaning of words. Example: understanding the lyrics of a song. Acoustic encoding, the encoding of sound, especially the sound of words. Listening to the beat and rhythm of the songs on the album. Visual encoding, album cover. Semantic encoding, lyrics. Acoustic encoding, rhythm.
Additional vocab. Spacing effect, the tendency for distributed study or practice to yield better long-term retention than is achieved through mass study or practice. Example: studying a little of your psych vocab every day will yield better results than if they are studied the night before. Serial position effect, our tendency to recall best the last and first things in the list. Example: we all can recall the first and current presidents of the United States of America. Chunking, organizing items into familiar, manageable units, often occurs automatically. When people organize words into groups, they are more easily and better remembered than if the words are seen randomly. People organize phone numbers into area codes, group of 3, and group of 4.
There will be a series of black words on the next several slides. 2 seconds will be allotted per slide. The object is to see how many words you can remember in order. You will have 30 seconds after the last slide to see how many words you can remember and write down in order. The winner will get a prize.
We'll now pause the video and give you 30 seconds to write down as many words as you can remember in the order you saw them in.
This represents the serial positioning effect. The words in order were victorious, hallelujah, elevated, weightless, outlines, photograph, December, therapy, escape, animals, bulletproof, addicted, amnesia, clouds, and undead.